Are you one of the E4 players who happenly having a hard time dealing with the Sicilian defense? This Sicilian variation is for you. This is called Smith Morra Gambit. And speaking of Gambit, of course, you're gonna sacrifice a pawn for a quick development. So let's go E4 C5. The usual response for black here is knight F3 for the main line. If you want to go Alapin, C3, of course D3 or knight C3 for the close Sicilian or King's Indian attack approach. So we will not go with these options. Instead, D4 is Smith Morra Gambit, capture. Although black has some choice here, can refuse capturing the D4 by moving, well, E6 I mean, E6 or D5 can go G6. Knight F6 is also a choice, but of course vulnerable to any kind of attack. So C takes D4. We will offer the pawn on C3. Now, if you don't want that kind of gambit, you can immediately capture queen takes D4 or knight F3. But since we want to discuss how about giving away your pawn for a quick development, how to set up your position. So this opening is for white and for black. So you can also go for this opening if you're playing with a black piece. D takes C3 is our topic for today, but is the D3 good? Yes. After the bishop takes D3, just imagine the knight on B1 cannot go in the usual spot, which is the C3. That is the reason why some of the players move D3 instead of D takes C3. Also, knight F6 is one of the choice. D5 or G6 for the fianchetto bishop. But let's go by moving D takes C3, knight C3. As you can see, white sacrifice a pawn for a quick development and space. Space is very important if you want a mobility for your pieces. So let's continue by developing knight C6, knight F3, and here E6. The idea is after bishop C4, this bishop is not pressuring the F7 pawn. A6 for the B5 and then bishop B7. Castling, since you sacrifice your pawn, you have to make sure your king is safe and will not hit by any kind of check. Knight Ge7 and here the bishop G5. Pinning down a knight, so this knight cannot develop yet. So two options for black here, H6 and F6. Let's go H6. What will happen? Of course, bishop E3, you have to move away. At the same time, this bishop still pressuring this diagonal. At any time, given a chance to sacrifice a bishop, well, white is anytime ready. Knight G6, knight D4 for the F4, capture, B5, bishop B3, bishop B7, and now F4 and F5. So let's go back after bishop G5. How about F6, bishop E3, B5, bishop B3, knight G6, knight D4, and once again, exchanging piece for the quick F4 after capture, queen takes, bishop B7. As you can see, the two rooks are connected and the delayed development for black. F4, rook C8, queen A7. The idea of queen A7 is to avoid or prevent the bishop C5. So queen A7, queen C7, king H1. If black would go bishop C5, of course, bishop takes, queen takes, and there is no check. Queen takes B7 and white is piece up here. So queen B8, queen D4, bishop C5, queen D2, capture, queen takes. As you can see, the pieces of white are active and can control the D file, which is this D7 is kind of weak. If would attack, F5 also is coming. Rook F3 to rook H3 or G3 is also kind of dangerous attack for white. So castling, if we will go for different approach here, how about bishop C6? Then still F5 is approaching. If we will go queen D6, you are just inviting the white rook AD1 attacking the D6. If queen C7, making sure this queen is very active. still f5 attacking the knight on g6 and then e6. Unfortunately, the black king is still in the center. So instead of you moving any of the pieces, just castling f5, knight to e5 capture, and king h8, not d takes e6 because of this double attack. So instead of capturing king h8, rook, knight takes, and if you will see, the light square of black can be attacked by white. That's kind of weak, and this rook is very flexible going to g3 and h3. But the disadvantage of white here is this isolated pawn. So if black would find a way to hold the position, this e4 might be the weakest point for white. So black has to defend well until it reaches the endgame, exchange piece to lessen the pressure. And if you are playing with a white piece here, you have to make sure that you will not go for a quick exchange, or else endgame might be a problem for you. So you can use this opening for white and for black.